Descenders is a game that took me a while to finish, over a year in fact. Not because the game is very long, because you could probably beat it the whole main course in under an hour, but that was not my experience. I first tried this game way back when it left early access in 2019. I played it for a bit then, left it, and I enjoyed myself. Then I had no access to the game and only played it again once I had Game Pass for a few months. In the beginning of 2020, where understandably not only did my save not carry over, but the build of the game was also very different, even though it had already left early access. And now, in January 2021, finished this game again on the Steam version, where I had once again had to start over, and then I just beat it in a couple of days. While I had a lot of unlucky moments with this game, it's hard to say that they were completely up to chance, as the way I found myself playing this game is very different from how I usually play games. For reference, I'm someone who usually plays games from beginning to end before moving on to the next one, but with this one, with its non-existing story and a very easy to pick up and go for a run type of levels, almost like a roguelike, I found myself playing it very sparingly, only coming back once in a while and playing for a couple of runs. And it is very much like a roguelike meets a bike racing game, even though there's no actual racing in it. The way it works, for every run, maps are randomized in their landscape, which will affect their properties like the level of incline and curves, and also stunts. For example, the first map is Highlands, which is mostly wide open grasslands, so the chances of getting a harder level here are much smaller than in later maps. To finish the game, you'd have to play through the 4 main maps in a row, but that's probably not how it will work out, as beating 4 maps in a row isn't so much an impossible task as it is a long one and also very luck based because of the randomness. And that's why the game has this feature that if you can complete the bonus objective of the final level of each given stage or map 3 times, then you can just skip that stage and start at the beginning of the next one, greatly reducing that annoyance of having to play through the easier levels again once you die. I call these bonus objectives, as I would say the main objective is completing the level. These bonus objectives are not required to beat the game, but they will certainly help, as doing them will grant you an extra life. These objectives vary from beating a level without breaking or within a certain amount of time or doing a certain number of stunts. Also, pretty much anything you do in this game will give you experience points, varying of course on the complexity of the action. These experience points serve to do a sort of level up. By that I mean, when you reach a certain number of them, you'll be able to pick from a set of 4 random upgrades, which adds a lot to the roguelike feeling. These upgrades can affect your riding skills, making them easier, like being able to bunny hop higher or lower the wobble when going at higher speeds. Then others can do slight changes to the terrain, like removing debris or smooth out the path. And then there's some that help you have a better view of what the rest of the map might be like. While they are useful, there is also not a big variety, and definitely didn't make me want to start a run from beginning once I had unlocked later maps. Overall, variety seems to be a big problem with this game. There just isn't a huge variety of things to do or get. While there's quite a few unlockable cosmetics, only a few of them are interesting at all, and most of them are just generic biking gear. Even with the sponsors, which is another added objective to do during the gameplay, this being more in the long term, like do X number of stunts, but still there isn't a huge reason to do them given their unlocks are also just more of that generic looking biking gear. The best and I guess funnier gear will come completely random after losing or beating a run. Also, the 4 main maps are just not very inspired, and you will see them so much that you will get bored of them very quickly, especially with their very simple graphics. Even with the slightly more fun and interesting extra maps, I'm biased to the desert map, which you can make crazy with the editor. Even the objectives get repetitive, as you'll see a lot of the same ones even within a single run. The one saving grace for me with this game is the actual gameplay, the bike riding. You can slide, you have full control of your movement in the air. The controls are tight in a way that is very fun to challenge yourself and see how far you can push it, how fast you can go, and how many flips you can get away with. In a lot of ways, it is the closest thing we have to a 3D Trials game. And while this is all good, a lot of it is also put down by the live system, as it makes you less likely to push the surprisingly robust feeling gameplay. Here, as they say, the boring player wins the race, and this extends to those bonus objectives, as most of them will not challenge in any way that would force you to push you to do riskier plays, like time restraint challenges and more complicated stunt combinations. Overall, Descenders is good gameplay stuck inside a somewhat boring game. I think there is a big potential here that we might see in updates or even a possible sequel if this game is successful enough. But for me now, having beaten it, I don't really have much reason to keep playing unless some cool mod for it pops out. But that's not really something you should rate a game on. And speaking of rating, this game is getting the 6 out of 10. I do recommend it. I do think that the few hours of fun you might get out of it are legitimately worth it at the price. The game goes for $20 and of course even lower during sales. And if you're willing to play with mods or even enjoy playing with map modification tools, then there is something here to enjoy, even if that doesn't really appeal to me for more than a few minutes. So far, this might be the easiest game to recommend with such an okay score, given it still has an addicting quality to it despite all its shortcomings. And of course, a very solid pace. Regardless, I hope this video was informative enough that it helped you decide regardless of what you choose to do. And of course, like I said earlier, as of the making of this video, this game is on Game Pass, and if you already have that, then I guess it wouldn't hurt to try it. And if that's the case, then I highly recommend you do. Once again, regardless, have a good day, and please consider subscribing and liking, and goodbye.